Welcome to RealmIQ sessions, featuring conversations on AI with AI founders, AI leaders, and experts from around the globe covering the intersection of media, technology, Hollywood, and marketing. Please give us a follow and subscribe. This is our host, Curt Doty.
Okay, so look, I've talked a lot about innovation for good on this show, but we've never had a guest focused on health, and specifically mental health, before. So today we will speak with Chris Lee. He's a serial tech for good entrepreneur and the co-founder, executive director of Say It Mental Health, a nonprofit that fuses peer-led campus clubs with a gamified app whose pilot cut Gen Z students reported daily stress by 29%. Amazing stats. So he's a 5-time founder with 2 successful exits. Chris has spent the past decade teaching business management at UCLA while shaping the next wave of emotionally intelligent technology. Early in his career, he advised Fortune 500 leaders in Deloitte's strategy practice and managed multi-billion-dollar portfolios for leading Chinese investment funds. Today, Chris channels that blend of business rigor, academic insight, and startup grit into one mission: training AI so digital tools can understand, support, and empower real human feelings, especially for the generation that needs it the most. So let's listen in. Welcome to the show, Chris. So let's start with mental.
Good morning.
Yeah, great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, we've had some conversations, and I love what you're doing. But let's start with mental health and ChatGPT. There's numerous stories as people are using it as an online therapist. What's the good and bad around that reliance and exposure?
You know, it's interesting. I read some reports on that as well, too, that many Gen Z students are turning to ChatGPT as a companion. And I get a chance to speak with some of the engineers from OpenAI. And this is what they told me, that this was a very pleasant surprise. They didn't plan to create ChatGPT for this fashion, right?
Yeah.
So here are my thoughts: that on one hand, that anytime a student or anyone who really wants to take charge of their own mental health to do something about it, I think it's a really, really good thing. And for me, the interesting concept is that maybe we should ask, why are Gen Z doing this? So I can think of a couple of reasons. One is that, hey, it's always there, right? It's on your phone, it's on your laptop, maybe it's on your desktop. So it's accessible 24/7. So it's very useful. And for me, I think the biggest reason why the student turn to this is that, unlike other social media platform, ChatGPT is basically non-judgmental. It just listens to you. And it points to me that many students I speak to basically said the same thing, that oftentimes they feel alone. There's no one for them to talk to. And currently, social media platform is not really structured that way, that they don't feel comfortable sharing what they truly feel. So they have to be performative, pretend to be someone else. So really speak to that there's a lack of platform for them to be who they really are. Now, I am a big fan of peer support. And I think for most cases that having a friend, someone that who gone through the shared experience with you, is really, really meaningful, right? And look, we all experience some temporary distress from time to time, particularly your students. Okay, you go through a final, a midterm, you date someone, you break up with someone, you're applying to college, you're applying for internship, right? All this has constant distress. So having a shared experience with some friend to go through with you, I think is really powerful, which is the negative for something like a ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a smart parrot, but it has no EQ. It doesn't have human emotion, right? It doesn't really it hasn't gone through the same experience that you have gone through.
Yeah.
So that could be a problem. And this could be a really big problem, particularly that if you are someone who might have some more serious mental health condition, in a trauma case, maybe you have some negative thoughts about hurting yourself. So something like a ChatGPT without the emotional awareness could actually be very harmful.
Yeah. For our listeners, can you tell us what EQ is?
Well, EQ is basically what we call emotional intelligence, right? So oftentimes we
Like
we talk.
EQ, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
there's IQ and EQ. So in my experience as a teacher, that I found that IQ is important, but perhaps EQ is a better indicator of how well you perform actually later in life. Because at the end of the day, that most of us, we need to work with other people on the team, right? So having that emotional awareness, how to work with people is important. And that's something that AI doesn't really have. AI is pure logic, right? It's really good at doing calculation. It's good at summarizing information, gathering information, but it doesn't really have that EQ component to understand who we really are. So for instance, that going back to your question earlier, if you use ChatGPT as a therapist, right? Well, ChatGPT would basically answer response just as you type it. It would oftentimes miss any nuances, how you phrase certain things, right? Maybe we use it sarcastic. It doesn't know that, right? And maybe you're hinting that, hey, I'm experiencing something really, really troubling. Again, without that EQ ability, it might not be able to catch all those nuances that the way we often do when we interact with each other. So for instance, if I'm talking to students, if I notice that the student is like a little upset, maybe something on the mind, I might speak a little bit slower, right? If vice versa, that if I notice that the student's really excited about this, I may speak a bit faster, I may speak a bit louder, just to make sure that we capture the excitement of the moments.
Yeah. Well, you speak to the texting generation, right? And they're just used to communicating via words, and text on their smartphones. And there isn't emotion assigned to those words unless they put a freaking emoji next to it. And that is somehow supposed to sublimate some emotional context. But this younger generation, they may not know how to speak emotional and open up because they're just used to just texting everybody. And certainly COVID and the isolation of COVID, the environment that they grew up in as children, right, had to have an effect on these communication skills, let alone of them, right? The kids, not just the technology, but what is the EQ of this generation?
Well, that's an interesting point, right? So I think there's the assumption that, oh, okay, the Gen Z, they are the digital generation, right? They all grew up with the iPhone and iPad, something that we didn't quite have when we were kids, right? So no question that they are very technological savvy, that they could find information, they're really good at using that as a tool to for all aspects of their life, like you mentioned, that even communications with the friends, right? The texting, the messaging. But you also point the fact that, yeah, for them, sometimes texting is not enough, right? Words not enough. They do use emoji to express how they feel. And I actually think that Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they are very emotional. To me, I call them basically hippies 2.0. They exhibit all the things that, well, I wasn't part of the hippie generation, but what I read and what I seen, right? Just like they are very emotional. They care about the world. They care about each other. They are very much into social causes, right? And back to what you're saying about COVID, that it surprised me that I really thought that, oh, the kids would just love it, right? Going online for classes, they don't have to come to class. And for a while, that was absolutely true. But after a while, some of the students actually told me that, hey, Professor Chris, we miss coming to class. And what I realized was that, hey, they do want in real life interaction, no question about that. But we have to give them a reason to come to class, right? If all I do is read a lecture for my lecture notes or from the books, it's like, why should we come to class? I could just read on my own. I don't need to read for me. So what it says that they are very particular, that they want positive, they want engaging interactions. So if we can provide that in real life, they want it just like anyone else.
Yeah. Okay. So I love your background, and you're a founder now of an AI company. And as with any startup, what problem are you trying to solve? And how did you arrive at your insights to create your platform?
Okay, so first of all, that we don't call ourselves an AI company. That journey was a byproduct of trying to understand what do our users really need. We started out, and our main mission is like, how do we create a better mental health platform to deliver services to Gen Z, to the student in high school, to the student in college. That's what we set out to do. Along the way, we recognize that there's certain things that we can provide. And when we provide those services, so for instance, that we on our app, so let me backtrack. So our team is all Gen Zers. So some of them are my current students, some of them are former students. We came to realization that what's lacking in the mental health service for Gen Z is not so much access to services. There are plenty of services on campus, on college level, even high school level. What's missing is that these services are oftentimes created by a different generation, older generation. And the way they deliver service is not really makes sense. They don't speak to the current Gen Z students right now. So case in point, at UCLA, where I teach, the school's been around for a long time, right? Over 100 years. It's one of the top public universities in the country. And we have over 15,000 students, undergrad, grads, and also professors on campus. And the budget for UCLA, I kid you not, Curt, is $11 billion a year. So that's a lot of money, right?
Right.
So imagine that with that much resources, with that kind of history, with that many students coming through for 100 years, they would really understand student health and mental health service really well. No, not even close, right? So if you want mental health counseling, you have to go to a sub-basement of this really old building. So there's no windows, no natural lighting, very depressing.
Wow.
And you walk in, they give you this plastic card. The first thing it says on the card is, we need to verify your student eligibility. So think about it from the student perspective, right? When you are a student, when you're Gen Z, you're in the age of teenagers, right? I think that asking for help is difficult. Well, even for us now, right? As we go, asking for help is always very embarrassing, right? Personal in nature. So when someone walks down there, you need to recognize and say, hey, you're so brave to come down, to actually positively and actually seeking help. Welcome. How can we help you? Yes, I get that we're a university. Yes, I understand there's processes, but the verification of your status can be done later on. Let's get them comfortable, right? So when we did a little study, we sat in the clinic and we watched how many students actually come down. And by the time they receive the card, most of them just walk away. It's like, oh my gosh, these people don't get me, right? So our team and I decided, hey, the way to do this is, can we redesign the delivery services? The way to do this is what we need an app, because that's what they really want, right? Just like with ChatGPT, it's something available to them 24/7. They feel comfortable using it. So one of the things we do on the app is that we ask them, how do they feel every day? A very sophisticated emotional check-in to check the vibe. And from there on, we allow them to basically, we encourage them to express the feeling, however good or bad, okay? We're not trying to fix them, in different creative ways. Maybe create some art, we can write a story, maybe even suggest a song that they could relate to their emotion. So we allow them the freedom to really free express who they are and to share the expression and maybe comments on other people how they do it. And then during the day, when things slow down a little bit, we also ask them, hey, maybe you want to reflect upon your experience. So during this process, we get to understand, oh my gosh, we are capturing a lot of information about the mental health, about the emotion. And it started us on a different journey. It's like, maybe this information could be very useful in training AI, because AI is a big topic. I think it's a huge technological advance that is going to stay. It's not a fad. It's going to be here with us for a long time. Maybe you can use the information we're gathering to train AI to be more empathetic. So that's our journey.
Okay, yeah. So that's the problem you're solving.
We're trying to solve, and look, I think that many researchers much smarter than us, and many folks around the world are all looking at this issue, right? And we all know that if you look at the evolution of AI, this is where they want to go. So in the industry, the term they refer to this theory of mind, TOM. And theory of mind is basically a psychological term. Say, okay, can you relate to another person? Can I step into your shoes and understand how you're feeling?
Yeah.
So the goal, the objective is that, hey, if we want AI to be truly useful, beyond just being a very smart parrot to mimic what we say or summarize what we said, that if it could be really useful to that, we need to really add this emotional layer to it. So the LLMs, the large language models that we have right now, they're really good at the language component, right? And many of them has really strong logical layer component as well too. But what's missing is this emotional layer. So along with us, and again, many, many smart researchers around the world are all trying to figure out how can we get information to train AI to be smarter so they be more useful and beneficial to us.
Yes. So that's the second problem you're solving. The first problem was giving access, right, to troubled college students, let's say, of the age to seek therapy in a way that's responsive and accessible. The second problem you just described was trying to train AI, the LLMs, to be more empathetic and create an emotional layer.
Yes, yes.
And that's not really talked about a lot. When people talk about AI, they talk about AGI, they talk about reasoning, they talk about it being smarter than humans, doing human tasks better than humans do. But there's never talk about the emotional component. And myself, I'm a creative using AI, and, from the creative community, it's creativity is something that's very soulful and very human and humanistic. And so the critique is that, a lot of the AI, certainly imagery that's coming out, lacks
It doesn't have the soul, right? It's just like
soul. It's been the criticism of lack of soul. Like art is soul, music is soul.
Absolutely,
right? And so that's been a big critique. But what you're saying is we need to train it to not only think better than a human, but also to feel and be.
Yeah, Curt, I think I do agree with you that now there are talks about AGI, right? And part of the AGI does involve the emotional layer. So you got to remember that the AI as we know it right now, the agent, okay, the ChatGPT of the world, the cloud of the world, it's relatively new, right? It's only been around for a few years. Now, the foundational technologies that got to this point has been around much, much longer. It started almost at the beginning of the PC era, right? So people have been basically building upon technology for a long, long time. And for the longest time, the focus, again, so all these agents are built on what we call LLMs, large language models. The first thing to challenge ourselves is, okay, when we talk to the AI, we talk to the machine, does it understand us? So like the name implies, language, right? So the first thing is, okay, let's make sure that it understands us, right? So now when we talk to ChatGPT is actually pretty smart, right? In many ways, it's much smarter than Siri. Sometimes Siri doesn't get what we're asking, but ChatGPT does, right? So the language has been the focus. And the way we've been doing that is basically scraping all the information from the internet, text-based, right? And we just run statistical models. Okay, what does it really mean? Especially in context. So I think that we got that really, really well. And so after that, the next challenge for him is, okay, now if we were to summarize, it would be to help the user do certain things like we need certain logic, how things are done, right? So they've been really working really hard on that. Again, it's getting smarter and smarter over time. The next challenge to really get to what we call AGI, general intelligence, it is about the emotional layer. Now, the challenge for these companies is like there is a lack of emotional data available for them to get. Now, they scrape all information from internet already, right? There's very few things for them to scrape. And also, internet doesn't really have emotional information.
Right.
Now, you might challenge me by saying, hey, what about social media platform? There's a lot of stuff out there, right? Absolutely. But remember that many studies have shown that most of us, many of us, okay, we are in a way lying our asses off. Can I say that? I'm sorry. That we're being performative, right? On social media. So the information you get might not be real.
Right.
And often, and also that there's an issue with the information you get on social media tend to be typically a snapshots in time that, okay, it's this moment, this person saying this. You really don't know what led to that before or what's after, right? There's no longitudinal data available. So that's why it has been a challenge for all these companies. And they recognize that. How do we get this data? And also the other challenge is that we as users, particularly Gen Zs, we are getting smarter. We are more protective about our data, our privacy than ever, right?
Yeah.
They don't trust a lot of the big tech companies, that
Right.
they don't want to freely give information away, knowing that, hey, for many tech companies, the model is about that. They want to suck out data so they can sell more advertising.
Yeah.
It's very rare about using
Well,
data
I don't
to
think
really
it's
help us.
advertising. I think it's about training to be about advertising, but there's no advertising on ChatGPT.
No, but what I'm
Right.
talking about is like social media, right? And
Right.
maybe a search engine that they are trying. So we've been trained, and Gen Z in particular, that we are very careful now how we want to share our data,
Yeah.
especially with big tech company, knowing that the trend has been for them to suck the data, maybe to train, but more often than not is to sell us something, resell information. So they're very protective of their information.
Sure.
So that makes a really big challenge for big tech company. How do you get this real information? And I think that we are unique in the sense that because we start out not as a way to collect information. We start out, it's like, how can we help the students? And
Right.
how can we create something for them? And getting information is just a byproduct. And there's something that I guess it's just from my own family upbringing. My dad was teaching me that, hey, you know what? You have to give more than what you're getting, right? And I think it's so true today. If you want to be a consumer-facing entity, an app or company, right? You have to go in to give more than what you're getting, or else you're not going to build a trust with your target consumers because we've all been burned before.
Yeah, right. No, building trust. That's a very good point because the success of any technology is trust.
Absolutely. Again,
I always
Gen Z, right?
I always use the analogy or metaphor of the light switch. It's like I trust that, pretty much every time I turn the light switch on, it's going to turn light on. And I don't know how it works, right? I don't know AC, DC currents.
Okay.
But I trust that it works and I like the results, right? Light. You can see the light on my face. It's like, yeah, love light.
You remind me of the quote from Matrix, right? Remember they talk about when they go back to Zion. It's like, yeah, we don't know how the machine works, but we trust that when we turn on, there's water and infiltration and air. Yep. I get you. Yeah.
Right. That's a whole nother world. But yeah. So, okay, let's just telescope a little into trust because
Okay.
with your platform and technology that you're building, you're building these relationships. You're building ostensibly conversations.
Yeah.
And
That's a good way to look at it. Yes.
and they're emotional conversations. I mean, it's like the real tough conversations. It isn't performative as in social media. It feels like, I would imagine, this person, the student, the subject is having a real conversation because they're seeking help and your technology is responding in a way that gives them help and advice and is empathetic. Meanwhile, all of this is being documented, recorded as data. We are the data. And you're saying with that data, you're able to train, is it your LLM or are you built on big tech's LLMs? And who are you training really?
Okay. So let me backtrack just one step. So with our platform that we are not therapists. None of us are really trained medical professionals. So our goal is not to give advice.
Okay.
What we do is that we create a platform to really encourage peer support. Back to what I was saying earlier, that I am strongly believe in peer support, that we believe that using peer support is a great way to basically teach certain skills to the student for them to really manage their own mental health. So again, we don't direct the conversation. We simply allow them to discover their own path, their own community, right? And just we moderate the conversation, make sure that it's appropriate, but we let them take their own steps. But back to question LLM, that look, we are not creating our LLMs. That is a very resource expensive, time-consuming endeavors. And we are a small little nonprofit. We don't have billions of dollars behind us to build another LLMs, and it does cost a lot of money, right? A lot of GPU expenses and a lot of smart engineers. We don't have that. So our goal is basically that we want to make our data set available to certain partners if they meet our criteria, for them to use our data to train the LLMs. Okay. And our criteria is very simple. So we want to partner with AI companies with the intent of using our information, using our emotion data set to train the LLMs to be more empathetic. It's not using our data set for them to commercialize, to sell more stuff to their users.
Right. Right. Yeah. We'll be right back. I want to answer the question, Curt, how do you pump out so much content? Well, secrets be told, I use Opus Clip, which turns long videos into shorts and publishes them to all my social media platforms in one click, captioned with post copy and hashtags and ranked by catchiness, used by over 12 million creators and businesses. And yes, I use it every day. Scan the QR code or click the link to get started. We are back. So you have a certain standard or requirement of any collaboration with big tech in order to release or provide access
to share. Yeah. We want to be the company to set the high bar, because again, look, we're dealing with students. Oftentimes they're underage, right? The second, we are talking about the mental health information, okay? Very personal, okay? And we have to treat it with the highest regard possible. And the way I encourage the team said, look,
6 a.m.
Sorry, I guess they misunderstood what I said. I told my team, it's like, guys, we have to do beyond what's required by the law. Wow. We have to do what is right. Yeah. So for us, for instance, that we all agree that we hate the current practice opting in, right? Opting out, sorry, okay? This is a messy process. It's hard to opt out sometimes. We want everything to opt in. And we want to very transparent, like, okay, what data you want allow us to share and with whom we're sharing. A big pet peeve that we have said, we hate these terms like third parties or affiliates. We don't know what that means, right? And I think a lot of company hides behind them. So we don't do that. So we want to be very transparent, very clear that if we share information, if you allow us to do that, this is a specific company. This is how this specific company would use the information.
Okay, that's fantastic. So I love that transparency. So literally, you in your terms and conditions opting in, you would say, do you want to share with OpenAI? Do you want to share with Google? Do you want to share with Grok or Llama? You would have those choices?
So we would explain to our users in very understandable terms, okay? Hey, we like to ask you to, if you'd be interested in sharing data. First of all, we have to say, why do we need to share the data? Now, again, like I mentioned before, that Gen Z is the digital generation. And maybe the new term should be, they are the AI generation, right? And I think that maybe is their duty, responsibility to really train AI EQ so that it will be not only better for their generation, but for the rest of humanity. They are very in tune with technology. They grew up with it. They have a very clear understanding of what they want the technology to do for them and how they can benefit everyone. So we want to make our mission align with their interests, right? So make first steps, making sure that they understand, hey, why are we doing this? And then to give them an option, okay, what information they would like us to share. that allows you to share. So as again, sharing is it's not digital, right? To me, it's more analog. It's like spectrum, because since we're collecting so many different information, give the user the opportunity to decide what they want to share, what they don't want to share. And finally, that let them know that, okay, if you agree, these are the partners, okay? Again, I don't know, we're going to have 5 different partners or maybe one partner, but what we do know is that, hey, we want to be very specific to name this as the partner we are sharing with, and this is what they're doing with your data. So we modeled this after basically the EU standard, General Data Protection Regulation. And this is also something Apple does. If you participate with the Apple research on the phone, they are very clear, transparent as to how your data will be shared, how it'll be used, and what you agreed to share and not to share.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. So that's the GDPR, right?
Yes, GDPR, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. Now, it looks like we're headed towards no governance of AI in the United States here. Yet the EU AI Act literally just went into effect this past weekend, and it's August here in 2025. And, no one's really talking about the implications of that as it relates to these international companies, which are big tech. If they need to operate in the EU, they need to comply with their regulations.
Yes.
And Meta was the only one that didn't comply with anything. Most of the others complied with at least half, if not all, the requirements, which is good. Are you taking into consideration those new laws as you're developing your permissions and or transparency?
Well, again, I think obviously we need to be in compliance, right? But our stand is that, hey, we need to do sometimes more than what's the law is required. Let's do what's right. And I really believe that what we're doing is actually exceeding what the compliance requirement is.
Yeah.
What it means in real terms, that it does cost us from the resource standpoint a little bit more. But if you build into it with the mindset going in as a startup, it's manageable. And again, I do believe that trust is paramount. It's the only thing that matters when you're dealing with GNC. And we have to do everything within our capabilities to make sure that we don't lose their trust.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of trust, what is some of the top line data around college age depression?
Oh gosh. Okay.
Because that really sets the table in terms of the problem you're solving versus access on a college campus. But what is the real data around the real problem, the real numbers?
You hit right on the head that this is really why we started this journey to create this nonprofit for the student, right? So the way I look at the data is that not just at college, but I also look at before college and also after college. So we're looking at this age group 10 to 24. So in the US, 10 to 24, so it's mostly Gen Z and some Gen Alpha. It's a big number, 70 million. So globally, the number is fairly close to almost like 2 billion, right? So it's a large segment of population, something that we need to address. And again, that in a way that their generation ultimately would inherit this planet, right? That they would be us in the 5, 10, 15 years. They'll be running the planet. So it is imperative that we help support the mental health. And mental health has been a big issue. One of the biggest issue we talk about depression, not only in college, but also I think starting in high school, is that school has become very, very competitive over time. And once you get into school, careers getting very, very competitive. So case in point, at UCLA last year, by 2024, there were over 150,000 applications for roughly about 13,000 spots for undergraduates, not counting a professional school. That's less than 9%. What it means that, hey, if you have a 4.0 GPA, you gain A's in all your classes, your application will be looked at, but there's no guarantee for admission anymore.
Right.
And a place like USC, okay, even though it's super expensive, we talk about like $92,000 for tuition 1 year, right? 88,000 people apply for roughly about maybe 9,000 spots. Again, about 10%, right? So it's really competitive. And what I also noticed is that something we don't really talk a lot about is that I think there's so-called achievement pressure here. That you see that a lot in middle class, maybe upper middle class family, and also for high performance high school, right? So there's this heightened expectation that the kids has to do really well, has to almost be perfect, everything they do. They have to get perfect grades, perfect test score. They have like perfect extracurricular activities just so that they could be competitive
Yeah.
to get into the right college and then maybe get the right job, right? So a lot of people say that, achievement pressure is a good thing, right? So you probably heard this term, the tiger mom in the Asian culture, right? Well, any kind of undue pressure, I don't think is necessarily good, right? Because it has been shown to lead to anxiety and depression. And the studies we look into from CDC, and also that there's the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration from the health department, that 42% aged 10 to 24, basically that they feel hopeless. They are feeling strong anxiety about their life. And a lot of that has to do with the academic achievement pressure, right? If you look further, that almost 1/3 of that age group, they have exhibit sign of depression already. One terrible statistic says that nowadays, some of the kids are having panic attack at the age of 15. Look, when we will have panic attack, right? So early this morning, before I start the podcast with you, my first podcast, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do, right? I am having my panic attack. But now kids having that at age 15, that's, to me, is unreasonable, okay? They should be having the time of their life. And in the US, again, 10 to 24, suicide is now the number 2 cause of death. So all this is just so much pressure.
Yeah.
And if you add into the cultural component to it, right? So a lot of culture, myself included, from an immigrant family, that there's a heightened achievement pressure. On top of that, certain culture, like Chinese culture, I'm Chinese American, that mental health is a taboo. You don't talk to that with your parents. You don't discuss it with any immediate family. So there's just say no. You just suck it up, right? So all this essentially creating a really negative environment for students, both in high school trying to get in college, and in college trying to do really well so you can get ready for job markets.
Yeah. Yeah. And that job market is also looking more competitive now.
Well, yeah. So here's another interesting point I want to share, that at UCLA we have this really amazing program. It's called the Sharp Fellowship. So what it does is that we allow first year freshmen at UCLA to apply for roughly about maybe 120 spots. And if you get in, we pair you with an alum who's done really well in maybe iBanking, in finance, in technology, or management consulting, right? So essentially the student will shadow the alum, him or her, for the next 2, maybe 3 years, getting a lot of hands-on information, mentoring as to how you can succeed or get into the industry. So about 120 spots, but over almost 5,000 kids applied last year.
Oh, wow.
So all these kids applied a 3.9 GPA at UCLA for first year already.
Yeah.
We have to turn away so many 4.0 students get. It just, again, speaks to the pressure that you get into college, then you start the next boss fights. You're thinking ahead already, how they get in the job market. And I just really feel terrible that they're missing out maybe the best time of their lives, right? Because they are on this constant pressure to perform, to get ready. And no one, and the service available to them is not speaking to them. That's why I said, look, is there a way we can help them?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love what you're doing. I talk a lot about innovation for good, and you are doing that. And
We're trying to.
well, I mean, you have the goal, you have your mission, and it is based on things other than, greed and money and some type of race for a feature set, which is big tech is just who's going to win that feature set war but it has nothing to do with the real needs, solving the real problems of humanity. And you're tackling that. I truly appreciate that.
Well, thank you. So I guess maybe I'm maybe that's part happy me, right? I do believe in the good of humanity, despite some of the things that we see from day to day, right? I do believe that inherently we are good, okay, given the chance to do that. And I'm just so happy that we have a group of amazing team members,
Yeah.
Gen Z students. Some of them are actually in high school, okay? Some of them are just sophomore in high school that they see this as an important mission that they all want to participate and do good to make it better for their generation and for everyone else around.
Yeah. And you speak to that generation being the key to our future because they're the ones that could and should be training the AI to develop that emotional layer. It is up to them.
Yeah, it is.
Us old guys, speaking from an old guy, but I do have hope in the next generation. And I'm glad you're enabling it and empowering them, employing them, and they're equally part of the mission, as is the technology that you're using to achieve your goals. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Please talk about the name of your platform, how people can find it, and any other things you want to plug here as we're getting to the end of our podcast.
Okay. The name of our organization is sayitmentalhealth.org. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. That's really how we started. So as we mentioned that we have an app, we have a beta app where we're finalizing the version that should come out early next year. We have an amazing team working on that. And in addition to the app, that we also believe, like I mentioned before, that human interaction. So we have peer-led, basically campus clubs. So we ran a couple of beta sites last couple of years at 2 universities locally here in Los Angeles and 2 high schools. And this year, we're going to expand to about 15 different locations. And hopefully, with your support, with other support, that we can expand to over 100 campuses in the West Coast next year. So the peer-led campus club is basically a trust circle. No white coats, okay? No lecturing. So we model it after the mutual benefit organizations such as AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, OA, Overeating Anonymous. I look at what they have done. I've seen some of my friends have gone through those programs, and I think those are amazing programs that they help so many people. So we try to model ourselves after that to provide the level of peer support that I think is so crucial in any journey, particularly in your mental health journey. Finding the right support, find the right support buddy in the right community makes a big, big difference.
Yeah. So where are you in your funding rounds? And
as you mentioned, we're a startup. We always raising funds. It's a challenge, no question about that. So we are fortunate that we have a couple of corporate sponsors already. Adobe, thank you very much. We appreciate your support. But so we continue to seek out to other foundations and other corporations. It is an important mission. It is an important mission that we just hope that we have the resources we need to get to where we want to go and to really help as many students as possible.
Okay. Well, that is awesome. Okay. We're going to wrap up our show here. Chris, it was so fantastic to have you on. And you're my first guest that's really focused on healthcare, let alone mental health. And
it's a big issue. Yeah,
it is a big issue. And hopefully a lot of people will see this show and adopt your platform when it launches and at least track your success. And we're wishing you all the best in the world. And thanks to all of you for tuning in, and catch more of our RealmIQ sessions on your favorite podcast platforms. And please follow and smash that subscribe button. You can also follow us on TikTok, LinkedIn, and now Blue Sky. Thanks, Chris. Take care.
Thank you. Listeners, thank you so much. Hope to hear from you all soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, great. Thanks.
RealmIQ. Transform your business with AI-driven innovation.
Subscribe to our Media Slam newsletter and learn more about the intersection of design, content, and technology.
CurtDoty.co. Branding, marketing, and product development.